Hello, Dumelang, and bonjour. Welcome to our second episode of Sechaba. Are you listening? We have including this one, another 9 episodes of just jam-packed information and conversations and dialogue around what kinds of issues are we facing as Botswana women, as African women, as European women, Asian women, South American, wherever you are, it seems there's this one thread that is just holding us together and is keeping us down in different aspects, in different areas of our lives. And today specifically, we want to figure out, where are you? Are you in the village? Are you in the city? What physical spaces are you in? What is your career? What political spaces are you in? Where exactly are we as Bomme? Because for some reason, we're not really representing ourselves. We're not really the ones standing at the forefront when it's our issues being spoken about. It's so easy to find a man there. It's easy to find anybody but a woman speaking about a woman's issues and how they affect women. And for some reason, we're just not the ones doing it ourselves. Anyway, let me not let me not bore you with my reason for today's episode. I am still with my favorite brother and co-host TK, as always.
Mo.
Hi. I almost said something about your buffness, but I am not going to do that today.
Not today.
Not today. I
Yes.
think we've had enough TK jokes today.
Yeah.
But we do have a very, very special guest with us today, Malebogo Molefhe. I like her because she's a former basketball player at national level, guys. And you should know that that is difficult because I did national swimming for a bit and it took all of my high school career to get to the national team.
Yeah.
I was in Form 4 by the time I made it, so I know how difficult it is. But I was lucky. I did not have to go through the grueling full process.
Yeah.
I got, to get injured by being stupid, and then I got to drop out of things. But Malebogo has been through all sorts of ups and downs in life, and she's persevered through those things. She has said, not today, Satan. We are not going to play this game where I stop being capable just because something happened to me. And I will not lie, Baholo, I am not that person. Life happens to me every day. At 34 years of age, I will still lock myself in the bedroom and cry and be like, oh, why me, Jesus? But I'm hoping that today, Malebogo, you give me those tiny little insights about how you managed to get yourself so far in such a short amount of time, because, wow, your story is amazing. And I don't know how you did it, but maybe you can give the people some insight so that they don't think I'm crazy and ke go boka hela just for the fun of it. Please just let our viewers know who you are and what you do.
Okay, yeah, very well. Thank you so much for that colorful introduction. Yeah, my name is Malebogo Molefhe. I'm also popularly known as Max. I'm a former national basketball player, as you rightfully say, and I'm also a national gender commissioner. Yeah, so
Okay.
yeah.
All right. I can see, okay, I mean, you're dressed like a baller today. So I imagine that
hope
probably
so.
like me, as you grew up, you drifted towards the sports because it kept you healthy. But sports are fun as well. So I can see how you would end up as a national basketball player. However, how did we end up in the Gender Commission? How did you decide, no, I need to be an activist? What was the point in your life where you said, I'm going to put basketball aside just for now, and I'm going to focus on representing marginalized people?
Yeah, well, my story takes me back to the experience that I had, which was so horrific, that found me fighting for my life enough that I became the person that I am today. It's an inspiration from the journey that I walked, which stems from a very harrowing attack that I had from my ex-boyfriend. I was unfortunately attacked and shot 8 times on different parts of my body. And as such, I sustained major injuries that left me fighting for my life and was hospitalized for a very long time to an injury that resulted in me being confined to a wheelchair. So this was not a very easy experience as I was younger then, and I didn't understand so much about what it meant to be in a situation of violence, because then I didn't even understand what the word gender-based violence meant.
Yeah.
I was very uninformed. I was working and I had a very bright life. I was young, vibrant, outgoing, and was on the national team, as I say, and my life was looking very bright. But then I had just that abrupt stop
Yeah.
where everything froze and I found myself lying in hospital, begging to survive, and ultimately going through psychosocial therapy to work on accepting that I was in that state, dealing with the trauma, and also so many emotions that were going through me, like regret, asking myself why I would allow myself to be in that situation to start with, having to deal with, you know, forgiving the person who had perpetrated me, and also just, how the society viewed me as an individual who was being abused or who had had that experience. And, coming out from an experience where someone dies is not an easy thing to deal with, because you're thinking, I'm the one who made that person kill themselves.
Yeah.
Or I'm the one who contributed to finding myself here because I could not deal with with those situations. And ultimately, I came to a point where post my release from hospital, I had now gotten to realize that there's so many things that it gave me a wake up call. Because when you are still running around and young, you're oblivious of some things that happen in our societies.
That's
So
true.
when I came out of hospital, I was like, now young girls are dying in a very brutal way. And I'm here and I was able to survive this ordeal. How do I contribute to limit their level of perpetration, or how do I save them from potential danger? And this came to me and I started internalizing it to a point where I reached out to people in the gender-based violence fraternity. I started listening, I started reading papers to familiarize myself with the kind of incidents that happen and how they happen and who and to who they happen to.
Yeah.
So this is when I started little. I started speaking on radio to sensitize the nation about gender-based violence, using my story that I am here. This is what I experienced, and I wouldn't want it to happen to you. And also sharing the red flags of how it came about, how I was attacked, and what could have transpired. And have that young girls will learn out of that experience. And this is when I found myself growing into the space of activism. I reached out to women such as Masa Twilo, who were in that space of advocacy,
Yes.
and learned so much about what it meant to be a victim, to be a survivor, and also to lose your life through those transgressions. And then I elevated to now speak in big forums like addressing the judiciary, law enforcement agencies, ministers, presidents, and elevated to a point where I was awarded for my work, both locally and internationally. And I'm currently the only woman in Botswana who's only gotten the International Women of Courage Award, an award which was
Nice.
bestowed upon me by the former First Lady of the United States of America.
Yay! I
Yeah.
think I got two things there. But I think the most important thing that I got first and foremost was that whoever you are, wherever you are at home, I would say Motswana at home, but this is a podcast that's going internationally. Start with what you have, start where you are, and you will get somewhere. You don't need to have 10 million, 50 million in order to be an activist, in order to step out of your comfort zone and help other people. You can start with where you are and what you have, as Malebogo did. But at the same time, and TK, I have to ask you this, because you said you didn't know, yet I guess everywhere, even here in Botswana, I do see a lot of don't become a victim, don't become a statistic. There's all sorts of information around us about what gender-based violence is, what the signs are, how do you avoid it, and things like that. But when you say you didn't know, is it safe to assume that even with all the information available out there, there's lots of people that have no idea?
Yes, Mo. I think that information is subjective. It's not something that is very objective. Just because you put something out there doesn't mean that myself and yourself are going to interpret it the same way.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't mean that also your lived experience is going to be my lived experience. Sometimes your conditioning, how you grew up, maybe that's how life has been and always has been for you. So now to put a label on it could also cause a bit of conflict with yourself, to say, but this is all I've known. This is all,
It's normal
yeah,
here.
it's the norm,
Yeah.
right? And then for, let's say, other people who might not know, they've never experienced such. They cannot even begin to fathom the fact that they could experience it. So, for example, if my wife was to start beating me, I wouldn't take it as gender-based violence. I would start assuming that I'm doing something that is maybe aggravating her, that is maybe causing her to be upset to a point where she beats me. Then you can come and say, but TK, this is GBV.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, no, it's not. She loves me. She cannot even begin to even want to hurt me. Then the next time you see now where it says don't be a statistic, because I'm enabling the behavior by not also taking a stance, because I don't know. I'm believing in the next person to do the right thing by me. So sometimes it's easy to blame a survivor and say, but you knew. You walk past. You can even live next to a billboard that talks about GBV. It doesn't mean that you are going to then also take a similar stance than your neighbor, because people can live differently. And it's rather also going to be my next question to you, Malebogo, when you mentioned that you began working with other women, and we are now also unpacking that some women may not relate to this issue the same way you do, or the same way other women who might not even have experienced it can relate to it. How did you find it navigating, trying to bring awareness to some women, even those that are in toxic relationships, that you can see that this one is going to end terribly? How did you find navigating it? Was there some form of also diplomacy you had to use, or what?
Yeah, very good question, TK. But, it's so unfortunate that gender-based violence in particular is seen as somewhat a taboo. And it's not something that is a topic that is seldomly explored. People talk about it in hiding, especially within the home.
Yes.
Remember, culturally, sometimes there are so many stereotypes that surrounds issues of gender-based violence. And it could stem from things like patriarchy, which contributes to the vulnerability of women in the home. So that women who can't even talk about gender-based violence to this day because they are conflicted. They don't want, it's either they don't want the perpetrator to be punished, or they don't want to divulge the personal information to the public or to the police, or they don't want to hold the perpetrator accountable. It could be an issue of lack of knowledge, like we alluded to earlier, that sometimes you're in a situation that is vulnerable, but you don't know how to explain it, or you don't know how to term it as a violent experience. So some women could come from the notion that it could come from the notion that they're young and inexperienced in love.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they're taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Or it could be that they are aware, but they don't want to talk about it. So, coming back to your question, I'd say that I've worked with so many women in the society, and it's very difficult for women to come out and name their issues and talk about them. Maybe because there are not so many people who are inspirational who can come and motivate them.
Yes.
The lack of motivation, one. And again, women don't have resources or where they can also report their issues. It's usually the police office, but there are no interventions in place where a woman can come and report. But I know that government is working on those gaps to try and close, such that it's not like in the old days when you come and report just where everyone is.
Yeah.
There are certain rooms that now that they have reserved for women to come and talk about or report their issues. So these are the tiny issues that come together to make women isolate from making those decisions to come out and say, we're going to participate in such activities or come out and speak about their issues in public. And again, I talked earlier about the backlash that we have in social media or just in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
Botswana still attack survivors and individuals who have experienced violence. And there's always this disparity about who is wrong and who is right. Yeah. So when you go into social media, you see every time when there's an issue of violence that is being announced or that is being posted, people would, rather than trying to find a solution, would bash each other about who is right and who is wrong. Men will take defense and say, we do this because this has happened. Or maybe this woman was using me for money. Or there could be so many reasons that surrounds it, which make survivors or victims clam up and not divulge that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we go for our short break, I just wanted to ask you, you mentioned we had an offset conversation where you spoke about, societal expectations like marriage, children. Do you think that also societal expectations put pressure on women to also stay in these relationships, even though they know that because maybe they're afraid of the stigma that is attached to divorce, to being left by your husband?
Or even just being single.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That is a major contributing factor. And I think I have to give myself an example, like I alluded to earlier, that it is very difficult for one, when they're in a relationship, to literally speak on the abuse that they're facing. It's something that we do behind closed doors. Like in my instance, I felt like this person was working. And if I went and reported them, then something they may lose their job. You start thinking along those lines, and you become somewhat you become so small in the relationship that you can't even speak for yourself. Yeah, right. So now, with what you're asking is, how does it come that the woman feels sorry, what was it? The question?
The societal pressures.
The societal pressures, yes. Also things around stereotypes. Yeah. How we perceive women in our society as less than men. Yeah. And also that women don't want to divulge that information because of what the backlash, like I said earlier. So these are some of the things that really contributes to the context of violence, and most importantly, the social, cultural aspect of it, like how the patriarchal ways that women are perceived, or how women, especially in rural areas, that they're seen not to, if a woman is married, for instance, they're not able to vent out and say, this is what I'm experiencing. Yeah.
It's a
Being Helen. And you know, tota hela, in our communities as Botswana, mosadi ha a nyetswe, o kopela mathata a gagwe, and they're not allowed to speak out on those issues to everyone.
At best, as far as I understand it, you are allowed to bring in the elders.
Yes.
And these are Rebabita Banyadi. It's not as simple as call your mom, call your dad. It's
Yes.
literally the group of people that were there for your patlo, your mahadi.
Who can intervene? Yes.
They're the ones who are allowed to now step in and say you have this issue, but yeah, not from my experience, from what I've seen, it's always siding with the man being the head, the man being the leader. And I think that's very, very problematic in our society, because then it means from the get-go, in the family structure, women are small. And I'm starting to see why, at least personally now, why it is that maybe as we grow up, it becomes hard for us to end up in politics, in leadership, in these big spaces where a woman would not normally fit. But more on this after our break. We'll see you just now on Sechaba. Are you listening? Welcome back to Sechaba. Are you listening? I am still here with my co-host TK and our wonderful guest Malebogo. In the previous segment, we were still touching on the ways in which a woman can be made to feel small. And the fact that it starts from the family structure is what I think, for me, makes this interesting, because again, I was raised by a man, and that means that there's a lot of boyish things about me. And as a result, I really did not fit in school. I was snot-nosed. My skirt was too long. My shirt was too big. I played too many sports. You know, I just wasn't girly enough. Guys, look, I know you see me with like hair and like I'm looking cute today, but like I didn't even like Vaseline. Let's put it that way. I wasn't the Itase the lips type of girl. I kind of looked awkward when you tried to make me girly, because I didn't fit into the mold.
You were chopping your Barbie dolls.
I mean, yeah, but it's because I thought I was going to be a doctor and I wanted to get ahead of the game. Okay. In my defense, I thought, no, for real, I thought I was going to be like a bone fixer or something. No, medicine is not for me. But that's when I began feeling small.
Yeah.
That's when I began feeling like I don't fit in. So as I grew up, it became very easy for people to tell me who and what I am and where I should be. I think it's only now in my 30s that I'm like, guys, I've as our advert says, I've become kind of unhinged. I'm kind of very uncensored now.
Testify.
I am the furthest thing from what your traditional Botswana woman is. But again, that means I am excluded. Unless Keikoba, I don't count, you know. So I'm trying to get to a point where I want to ask, what do you think we should be doing at home? Because I have nieces and I don't want them to feel small. I want them to get out this world and be like, it's mine.
Yeah.
But society tells them no.
No, you belong here.
So how do I make them big but keep them? Do you have any ideas on how we start doing that, giving our girls a voice?
Yes. Well, it's not an easy thing as we may assume it can be, because we live in a world where things have changed drastically. Like I said earlier, that Botswana has tremendously grown, and there are so many things that influence kids today. They watch TV, they're always on the internet. And we are not in those days where kids were kids, where they would be given instructions and they'll do them. So it's not an easy thing to do, but it's worth exploring. It's something that we need to do to cultivate a certain understanding for our children. We can't go back to culture. We can't go back to culture where we teach our kids to be submissive and to be things that really exacerbates inequalities. Because then we used to tell girls to be like this and boys to be like that. But the world doesn't operate like this anymore. The thing that we need to do is to ensure that we provide we cushion our children's participation in the communities by teaching them values, by allowing them to choose things that can help, that they're interested in, and also have a voice for themselves. By motivating them positively and ensuring that they have a basis where they can start life understanding the true values of self. And independence from a young age. And encourage them to support each other and to respect one another. I think those are just the basis. There's no two ways about it. It's just to have a child understand the values to life, respect for others, which is paramount.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think I could be willing to start doing that. There's girl children at home. We can step away from the submission vibe and get them voiced out a little bit more. But just out of curiosity, TK, as a man,
Okay, yes.
I'm sure, like, we relate in that we were probably both raised to be somewhat submissive, somewhat quiet, somewhat docile. But I do know that my male cousins were kind of allowed to run wild. And yes, I'm calling you out now, guys. Ha! Finally.
Cousins.
So I'm wondering, is there a lot of that? Like, did you experience that where sort of it's like there's no rules, there's no guidance, but at the same time, you're not allowed to show emotion. You just kind of have to be this rough and tough, bustling ball of energy all the time.
I guess I was one of the is it lucky even? Lucky ones who didn't have to experience that.
Okay.
Because when I was born, I was actually raised by my late grandmother, and she had 5 other kids she was taking care of, which were all females. So I grew up with females. That's why I'm more in touch with my feminine side. So you will find me that I cry. I'm not afraid to cry. If you come and tell me men don't cry, I'll tell you, say not in my in my area, right? I'm going to be comfortable under my own skin. So what it taught me was, yes, growing up, did I feel included? No, because, looking at even anatomy, I was like, why am I like this? And everyone else, sometimes I would wear like my cousin's clothes, and then, I'll be whipped. My grandma had this shambok she made from oxtail. So she'll whip me and say, men don't dress like that. So it kind of shifted my mindset to say, okay, so there is things that men do and women do. And then growing up, though, I won't say that I was oblivious to it. All my cousins, they would do all the household chores. It was maybe hidden as I was the favorite. So I never got to do anything. But when I look back at it, I'd say, okay, it's because I was a man. I wasn't going to be found in the kitchen. I wasn't going to be, even like now when people find out that, oh, I'm married, they'll say, oh, so you threw it in the kitchen. I'm like, guys, I'm actually the one in the kitchen. So it's
the roles are changed.
The roles are different. So I'm also now seeing how culture plays a role in making women submissive and not even dream bigger. Because women have to balance being a mother, being a sister, being a daughter, being someone who works. Whereas a man can say, yes, I balance also the same things, but you don't have to carry a child for 9 months. You don't have to take maternity leave. For a company that shall not be named, I was surprised to hear that interns are not allowed to have leave here in Botswana. I don't know how far true it is, but it's rather unfair.
I think there are definitely places where even like a full-time employee can't take leave.
But I would want to ask you now, maybe both of you, maybe, isn't that a double standard to say that, there is no leave, knowing very well that a man will never have to fall pregnant, but a woman will. So already she's going to be disqualified from this position the moment she decides to start a family. Whereas a man can start a family and continue reaping the benefits of being in the same industry as a woman. And those like double standards that are existing, and why aren't we being more vocal about them?
Yeah, no, I do feel there's a level of double standard in it, not against men, not against women, but against the concept of family. because yes, women should be allowed to take leave. Pregnancy is not something easy. This is why at 34 I have no idea what that is like, because my sister has shown me it's not an easy task. And I applaud her and every other woman I know who can accomplish it, because y'all almost died, guys. I don't know if you know, but like y'all did something so amazing that you almost died. However, having seen so many women go through botsetse and them being stuck in the house. I mean, it's not like your family is not helping, but we are intentionally excluding the father of the child. We're saying, keep working, go there. Don't come here. You don't belong with your family. And that makes no sense to me. Like, I understand the woman should get leave, but I'm of the point that the father should have leave as well. He should be directly involved. He should also be put in that room with his wife and his baby and must sit for 3 months or 6 months or however long and bond. Otherwise, nobody takes leave. We all just learn to live with it. We hire nannies and we move on. Like, we have to decide how valuable family is for me. I think us not considering the whole picture means we just don't value family.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that in addition, that creates or it creates imbalances in the family, and also it creates a field of inequalities for both women and men, because then the woman will be subjected to staying home, looking after the children. And in the event where the woman isn't working, it becomes a problem, because this is why Elia said we are vehemently advocating for paid work for women who are not working, who stay at home moms, be it stay at home moms or be it women who caretakers. Yes, because we find in our communities that women are the ones who are often marginalized in terms of when it comes to taking care of the sickly or or persons with disabilities. They're the ones who will leave their job or take long leaves to come and babysit or to look after those persons who are ill. So this is why government needs really to look at cared paid work. So that it could cushion some of the needs for those women at home and be able to fend for their families, to reduce inequalities.
Yeah. That's very, very true. I think when you say that, you remind me of this one time. The place I was working at the time wasn't very friendly in terms of needing leave and things like that. But my mom had this accident. She fell on her steps. At the time, she was living in Pikwe. And basically, she was going to be bound to also a wheelchair for about 6 months. But she's alone in Pikwe and, there's no walking around the house. It's really not that simple. So my sister and I sat down. She said, well, my bosses are more willing to give me leave than your bosses, so I'll go take care of mom.
Yes.
But if I didn't have a sister, and if my sister didn't have me, because at the time it meant my niece would be with me and my dad, and I would mind the child. But in that situation, that means no papa wane, because I know I look nice and young, but my father is about double my age. So he retired a good 10 years ago. We've been helping out in the house as much as we can because we want to give him that time to be a retired man. But again, if my sister was alone or if I was alone, I would have lost my job. Or my niece would have had to leave school. My father would be fending for himself. And again, she was taking unpaid leave just so that she can go and take care of my mom. So it never occurred to me then. It's only now occurring to me now that when I'm walking around my neighborhood and I'm seeing these women who are at home, not necessarily cleaners or anything like that, it's gonna make me start wondering that, were you forced into this position by life? And what can we start doing as a society to help you as part of my community as well? Because while we're waiting for the government, I think we should also be able to do something just living on one street to say, no, masamang mang kana khasore bana le eng, we should put our hands together, right?
Yeah. I think the first step is also, like you're saying, banding together as communities to support one another. Like you see a young lady with a business idea. You might, let's say it's a butchery. You might prefer your meat from Spa, but you see that, okay, this place is sanitary. This place has everything to be a state-of-the-art butchery. Why not just go there and just support a small business? Because sometimes it's also these expectations that it's us versus them. Because you as a woman, you've made it. You now disassociate yourself with where you came from. And now when you see another woman who's maybe selling nachis by the bridge, you say, no, I want mine from Woolworths. A nachi is a nachi. So what's stopping us from even just supporting one another is this whole idea of we forget our roots. Once we are in the city, we forget about the people in the villages. We only remember them when it's Christmas, Easter, and we just send them a food package and say, okay, here, but what about taking their children to just send them to school here? To empower, each other, because you know what it means to be a woman. You know the struggles you went through, the hurdles. As a man, I cannot even begin to even fathom, some of the challenges a woman faces to just go to school. So I believe that women in Botswana need to also take a firmer stance, challenge the norms, because the worst case scenario is not even you get arrested if you challenge a norm. It could be just maybe some backlash from the man, or backlash, like you were saying, that sometimes even women face backlash, but it's now being resilient and vigilant, and knowing that there's a community that will accept you, and not trying to put yourself in a community that already has rejected you, just chewed you, spit you out. So I think you're right. I think you're right. But I would like to hear from her, from Malebogo. You mentioned also that you're in the Gender Commission. So what type of work do you do there? Maybe for some of our viewers who might be interested in also maybe becoming activists.
We've been doing so much work to try and sensitize the nation on issues of gender-based violence. Remember, in everything that we're trying to do as a community, it boils down to what we're able to do to curb multiple occurrences of violence, because violence actually is the thing that really exacerbates inequalities for women. We cannot ignore the fact that gender-based violence is at the height of the problems in Botswana. And the more we don't work on it, is the more we have women sitting at home because either they're injured because of any attack that they may have experienced. And this is why it's very paramount for us as the Commission. But first, before I get here, I just want to commend the government of Botswana because it has made strides for women to have economic empowerment programs that they do even for the youth, that they get the grant to start small businesses for women who are young. And also we have the gender affairs program that they have, that they give support to women, financial support and economic support, as well as technical support to start businesses where they can have something. Like I said earlier, it is not an easy laid concept. It comes with challenges as well, because if you are stuck somewhere in the darkest parts of Botswana, there are limited options as to what you can do. Sometimes when you come from places like Botlo, there are no, or maybe other areas where there's no electricity, it's very difficult for an investor to come and lay an opportunity for women to start their businesses. Or business, you can attract maybe 30 women to work in a factory or something of that nature. It is very difficult for investors to come to rural areas. Hence, women now are still surmounted to obstacles and they don't have opportunities that they can tap into. This is why we see an influx of people coming to cities to come and get opportunities, which in essence also are not available. But then coming to what the commission does, it literally advises government on issues of gender and also things that contributes to gender policy development and also service provision for people in Botswana. We also liaise with the Gender Affairs Department to see where we can advocate better for people in Botswana in general, be it men or women. Yes.
Okay. I like that you touched on men.
Yes.
Because I think, hi, borre le na le mathata. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Besides the fact that you seem to not be allowed to be humans, for lack of a better word, I think the best way I can put it, or the best way I understand it, is that men don't seem to be taken as human. And as a result, there's a lot of lashing out, like that inbuilt patriarchy creates this opportunity to lash out because the woman is smaller and, well, I'm not really human anyway, and you know what, you have to be less human than me, so I'm about to lash out. But then at the same time, we're going to find men who are lucky enough to be raised like TK. And unfortunately, he's going to meet a woman who is very willing to put her hands on him. And I know I've heard these stories, but I never understood to what extent this lack of humanity for men can make you feel small as a man if something happens to you, until I watched one of those police cam things on YouTube where you're watching the US cops go around, and these cops got a call. Man was seen being hit by his woman, and the cops stop him because he's wearing what was described. And they say, yo, my guy, we got a call about somebody just like you who was being abused by his girlfriend. No, that wasn't me. So we're trying to help you. I'm telling you that wasn't me. Okay, why is there a scratch over here? Oh, no, I fell. What? My guy, the girl is right behind you. And these people are here and they're saying, we want to take you out of this situation. But you've been told that you're supposed to be strong. You're supposed to be unemotional. And so this little weak submissive thing, no, I'm not saying women are little and weak and submissive. I'm just pointing out that the way men have been raised, when that happens to you, it's like you have nowhere to go. Like right now as men, you don't seem to have anywhere to go to just be emotional. Now your woman abuses you. You go to the Botswana police station. You go home. My daughter, your wife. You must go back and beat her. You must show her who's the man. So now, what can we do for young men to say it's okay to be human? You are allowed to have feelings. You bleed like the women bleed, not from the nether regions, but if we cut you here, you would bleed like I bleed. If we opened this area, we pull out a heart. We open this area, we pull out a kidney. So like, how do we get men to start feeling human? And start feeling like they're part of the conversation just in general, so that we can stop fighting, guys. Now I'm tired of men and women fighting. I won't lie. Now I'm tired.
Yes. It's very funny that you say this, but in actual fact, I think we all have a responsibility as humans, as both men and women, to act against gender-based violence.
Yes.
And this doesn't mean, well, the reason why we keep talking about women empowerment and gender equality is because the results or statistics tells otherwise. Although men are being abused, the statistics are pretty low. I can share that the 2012 relationship study, was it 2012 or 2018 relationship study conducted by the Gender Affairs Department indicates that 67% of women in Botswana are at some point in their lives abused. Not so long ago, in 2018, right, there was another relationship study conducted of intimate violence between, and it indicates that women are being abused within intimate partner relationships, which says in essence that, without doubt, that there's an underlying factor which needs to be investigated between men and women in our communities that constitutes violence or contributes violence within intimate partner relationships. So women in the past have really spoken out and come out and say, we're being abused. Although we're saying that so many people are not coming out, but the statistics tells us that women report violence, whereas men don't report in large numbers. So this is why the response is on women, right? Not excluding that men are being violated. Yes. So women have in the past marched, they have talked about violence in the streets, they have fought, they have cried, they have marched, they've done all sorts of things to raise awareness about gender-based violence, whereas the men are silent. Yes? So this really speaks on how we view gender-based violence to be a woman thing, not necessarily a man thing. But we all are mandated. We have a responsibility as individuals to speak about the evil injustices of gender-based violence. Botswana has been known to be a peaceful country across the world. But recently we've seen that in the gender-based violence indicator, it proves that Botswana is number one, is leading in the country because obviously of our population
as well.
Right?
We have angry people,
Yes,
unfortunately.
unfortunately. So it says that on rape cases, we are the leading. And if you translated that to our population and the percentages, it is wild. Yeah. So we can't have a view in the world that shows that we as Botswana, who are known to be peace lovers, are also the ones who are perpetrators in the world. So it speaks of how much violence is indicated in Botswana.
You know, as you're speaking, something just dawned on me. Before I came to Botswana, I had never heard of the phrase passion killings.
Yes.
I'd never heard
that's a
of
Botswana
it.
thing.
And when I then heard it, I'm like, okay, passion killing. What is a passion killing? Because the phrase and the act do not match.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, aren't we also now kind of downplaying what has just transpired? Because you're trying to say, okay, this person loved someone so much to a point. So we're excusing their behavior in a way. And what does it then say for the next woman? That, okay, if I'm experiencing this, when people just sensationalize my experience and say, okay, this is love. You know, sometimes love is difficult. Sometimes love is tough. You know, so...
Wasn't it Jaru who had an album called Love is Pain?
I'm too young.
Somebody out there
I'm too young for that one.
was trying to perpetuate some nonsense, but...
So what do you think, maybe from an activist perspective, can be done more? Especially to our media and even our communities, just to, because yes, we can say we're trying to sensitize people, but we can only do so much.
Yes.
And are there any other things that maybe policies, maybe things we can introduce in Botswana or even in SADC, in Africa, in the world, that can help women feel safer?
Yes. There is, absolutely. Laws and... we need to improve the laws of Botswana. Yes, because I know recently the government, not the government, Parliament approved the bail bill. So there has to be our justice system is the one that is lacking in terms of executing cases of violence and also applying stringent measures to perpetrators to deter them from multiple occurrences or perpetrating even further or victimization of victims. Because sometimes someone kills or attacks a woman, but then they're given bail. And it often occurs that they will also do that. Because like I remember, for example, there was a man who literally killed 4 women while he was on bail.
What?
Yeah.
So we need to look at the laws and resource allocation in Botswana, because so much money has to be put onto the justice system so that they can actually improve on their laws.
Yeah.
Yes, and make them more stringent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. And I think this is a good place to end with a call to action.
Yes.
My parliamentarians, I know you guys are about to meet just now. We're having a meeting in a minute. When you see this episode, any one of you who sees this episode, it should not just be our Minister of Gender Affairs' problem. You guys need to get together and decide that the laws that are not working should not work. Similarly, go lapeng, go skolong, wherever we are, please can we start having these conversations openly and remember that we're all human, guys. Nobody
Yeah.
is better than anybody else. It's not fair for you to say no nkashapa o ka ore, o monnye, or whatever. We must start treating each other with respect. And then after you've learned how to, handle each other and be a community and come together, please come back for episode 3 of Sechaba. Are you listening?